a truly democratic country, if we have independent courts, if we uphold all the rights of all South Africans guaranteed by the Constitution, we shouldn't try to reinvent the wheel. We should, in South Africa, develop policies which are affordable, which can work, and which are focused on improving the quality of life of those who are living beneath the breadline.
Yes, I just wonder, when you say so much focus has to be on them, why, frankly, you and your foundation do spend so much time talking about the need to defend the rights of minorities, including the Afrikaners speaking the Afrikaans language. You do seem to be somewhat hung up on an issue which, dare I say, a majority of South Africans would regard as of secondary importance.
Well, the Constitution, once again, guarantees rights for all South Africans and prohibits, one of its cornerstones is, there shall not be discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, or whatever other basis. This has been thwarted by an unbalanced way of implementing affirmative action. We are not just defending white rights when we talk about the rights of minorities. We are now involved in a court case which will end up in the Constitutional Court, where the ANC said that people of mixed origin, so-called colored South Africans in the prison service, will no longer get any promotion in the Western Cape because there are too many of them holding officers rank. And that the prison service in the Western Cape must reflect the national demography, which is unfair, which is unconstitutional, which is wrong, which is damaging people who also suffered under apartheid.
But here, I suppose, when we talk about race and whether South Africa has truly moved beyond racial politics to colorblind politics, here's just one phrase more from the most recent OECD report, which says, by international standards, the link between race and poverty in South Africa is still remarkably strong.
So it has improved. One of the fastest growing groups in South Africa is the new black middle class. And I'm absolutely sure of my facts in this regard. The percentage of, if you analyzed the so-called middle class, if you analyze the percentage of blacks now forming part of it, it has grown exponentially in quite dramatic
All right, well, let's get a bit personal then, just to examine really how much South Africa has changed. If I may, let me ask you just a couple of personal questions. Where you live, just outside of Cape Town, is that a mixed neighborhood now?
The so-called former white neighborhoods have become, to a great extent, much more mixed.
So when you walk down your street, do you see a genuine mix of faces, of colors?
In my particular street, no, but 5 blocks away from me, yes.
Right, so there's a demarcation still. You can say 5 blocks away.
No, but 5 blocks away used to be totally white.
And what about in your own household? Do you have household staff of what color are they?
3 of them are colored and 2 are black. And 3 of them live on the premises in upgraded housing which we provided for them.
I mean, what I'm getting
at, we are one big family together. There's the best of relationships between us.
Yeah, I suppose what I'm getting at is that to many people watching this around the world, it probably won't sound that much different from the way South Africa was before 1993, 94.
Well, let me give you an example. It has changed in the way that this demarcation of living almost in separate compartments has changed dramatically. The way in which in schools now, all schools are multiracial now, to a lesser or greater extent. In all schools,
often to a lesser extent. If one looks at the exclusive universities and the exclusive secondary schools,
they go out of their way to get black students, they go out of their way to get colored students, they offer burses, they make it financially possible for people of color to go to the best schools to which they did not go before. There is, on the privileged side, on the side of those who are privileged, a real commitment to reach out and to be helpful and to open doors and to move towards a more egalitarian society.
I just wonder how you believe the party politics of South Africa can truly become post-racial, because you've already talked about the problem of having an ANC which is so dominant. 2/3 of the seats and the votes in your elections go to the ANC. The Democratic Alliance, the main opposition party, it's trying to make inroads. I think in the last election it got 24% of the vote, but the problem is if you break down that vote, only 5% of it comes from the black population. The majority of it comes clearly from the white and the coloured population. How does the Democratic Alliance move beyond that place?
I don't for one moment dispute the fact that our politics is still too much racially based and ethnically based. Once the ANC split, they will split. Some, I don't know whether it will be with a big bang or a series of splits, but once that happens, it will enable us to move towards more policy-based and principally-based politics, value-based politics.
But I suppose one point I'm getting at is whether, on the most literal level, the main opposition party sometime soon has to have a black leader. I mean, Helen Zille, she has a long record working for equality in South Africa, but nonetheless, she's a white woman in a majority black land, and can that be credible for the main opposition party?
I think what is more probable is that when that split occurs, there will be a moderate ANC, or with another name, a party dominant sort of with maybe a black leader, and there will be a radical sort of fairly left-wing ANC. It depends who will get the trade name ANC, that we'll have to see. And then I see room for alliances between a party like the Democratic Alliance as it is at the moment and a moderate ANC party, none of them having 50% of the vote, but together representing the overwhelming majority of all South Africans who are moderate.
You are talking about a sea change in South African politics, a huge transformation from the ANC of Nelson Mandela.
Absolutely.
And before we end, I want to just focus a little bit on Mandela with you. Are you still in touch with him? Do you still speak to him?
Yes, I honor his wish not to be bothered too much now. He wants solitude in his old age. But yes, we speak on birthdays, we communicate. My foundation and his foundation communicate with each other, work with each other. He has become a good and valued friend of mine. I highly respect him.
I'm interested you use that word friend, because you've been very interesting in what you've said about Mandela. You said recently, I don't subscribe to the general hagiography concerning him. He was by no means the avuncular, saint-like figure depicted today. As an opponent, he could be brutal and quite unfair.
Yes. In retrospect, maybe I should rather have said ruthless. But
in what ways was he ruthless towards you?
All politicians need to be ruthless at a certain stage. You cannot be an effective leader of a party or leader of a country if you don't at times take decisions which cut to the bone, which certain people will experience to be brutal or ruthless. I think Mrs. Thatcher, for whom I have the highest respect, was quite ruthless on a number of occasions. I was ruthless. I was brutal at stages, and I have experienced it at Mr. Mandela's hand when we were political opponents. The day before we together received the Nobel Peace Prize, he made a vicious attack upon me personally on TV. Just one example. I don't bear a grudge about it. I could give you other examples.
Every South African, I think, right now is hoping and praying that Mandela's health will last for as long as it possibly can. But one day, Mandela will pass, and that whole era will pass. And I just wonder whether you are worried about the impact of Mandela's passing on South Africa, because in a sense, his presence in the country has kept a lid on many tensions within.
I'll give you a reply to that, but once again, I want to just complete what I wanted to say about what I recently said. I said that as a footnote in praising him, in mentioning him simultaneously with 5 others of the greatest leaders I've met during my political career. He is a very special person, and it was not said in a derogatory way or to attack his character in any way.
Understood. But this idea that there may be a danger in a post-Mandela South
I don't
Africa.
think so. I think that already the ANC has unfortunately sort of tarnished his heritage by doing certain things wrong, losing the moral compass which he really supplied and established for the ANC during his leadership. I think, and let's hope it will not happen soon, when Mandela goes, it will be a moment in which all South Africans will put away their political differences, will take hands, and will together honor maybe the biggest South African who has ever lived.
F.W. de Klerk, thank you very much for being on Hard Talk.
Thank you.
Yo, we